All I did was give my sister a ride. A simple favor. But what I read in our family group chat moments later, it changed everything. We always think that family will stick by us, that no matter how tough life gets, the people who share your blood will be your safety net. But sometimes, the deepest cuts come from the ones we trust the most. This is the story of how one ride, one favor, opened my eyes to a truth I never wanted to believe. Before we dive into this emotional roller coaster, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and turn on notifications so you don't miss stories like this one, real, raw, and relatable. It started like any other Wednesday. I remember because Wednesdays were my slow days at work, the day I actually took a full lunch break instead of scarfing down a sandwich between Zoom meetings. The sun was warm without being overbearing, and the office was unusually quiet. I even managed to get a table by the window at the cafe across the street, something that felt like a small victory in the rhythm of adult life. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a message from my younger sister, Rachel. "Rachel, hey, can you give me a ride later? I have a hair appointment, and Alex bailed on me." I stared at the message for a moment, then smiled. Rachel. Always spontaneous. Always dramatic. Always needing something at the last minute. She's 4 years younger than me and somehow both my biggest headache and the person I'd defend with every ounce of breath I had. We weren't extremely close, not in the way where you tell each other every secret or wear matching bracelets, but we weren't distant either. Ours was a sibling bond built on shared childhoods, whispered giggles under covers, and unspoken loyalty. Me, sure. What time? Rachel, around 4:30. Thanks, sis. You're the best. The words were sweet, almost too sweet. But I brushed it off. Maybe she was just being appreciative for once. And besides, what was a quick ride compared to everything we'd been through together? I wrapped up work early and slid into my car, humming to a playlist of late 2000s hits, the kind of music Rachel and I used to scream sing on road trips. The memories came fast. Like the time we drove to the beach 3 summers ago and got hopelessly lost but laughed so hard it didn't matter. Or the time we shared earbuds and cried to Adele songs after her first real breakup. It made me feel warm. Safe, even. Like for all the ways life had scattered us into adulthood, we still had this common thread. When I pulled up to her apartment complex, she came out in a blur of perfume and confidence. Rachel never just walked anywhere. She made entrances. "Hey." "Thanks, Lisa," she said, sliding into the passenger seat. Her freshly done nails sparkled as she waved her phone around. "I owe you. Seriously. You're a lifesaver." "You can owe me with coffee next time," I joked. She laughed. "Done. Double caramel macchiato." "I already know." We drove off, and the conversation flowed like it used to when we were teenagers. She told me about her latest online shopping haul, her new skincare obsession, and how Alex, her on-again off-again boyfriend, was probably going through another phase. He said he was busy, but then I saw him liking gym selfies on Instagram. "Like, what kind of busy is that?" she said, with a dramatic roll of her eyes. I chuckled. "Maybe he's training to be an influencer." Please. If flexing in front of mirrors was a sport, he'd have gold medals. We both laughed, and for a few seconds, the world outside didn't matter. Just me and Rachel, being sisters. The radio played soft in the background. We passed the neighborhood we grew up in. Rachel even pointed out the bakery where we used to buy cupcakes after school. "Remember when you dared me to eat that giant pink one in one bite? And you choked for like 3 minutes straight." But I did it. I committed. It was nostalgic, lighthearted, even healing. For all the rough edges of our adult lives, this drive felt like a balm. An effortless reconnection. A reminder that under all the changes, the distance, the time, we were still us. Then she brought up the family group chat. Ugh, Mom and her good morning messages with 17 flower emojis. I swear she's trying to kill us with cheer. At least she's consistent, I replied. Dad sends those blurry memes he doesn't even understand. We giggled like middle schoolers. It was a moment that made me feel like everything was okay. Maybe not perfect, but okay. She looked out the window as we approached the salon. Thanks again, Lisa. Seriously. I know I joke around a lot, but I do appreciate it. I smiled. Anytime. I mean it. She hopped out, gave me a little wave, and disappeared through the glass doors of the hair salon. As I pulled away, I felt content. This was what family was about. Being there. No questions asked. No expectations. Just love and support. I had no idea that in the next hour, all of that would shift. That beneath Rachel's smile, her jokes, and her thank yous, something bitter had been brewing. And that the words I'd soon read in the family chat would shatter every warm feeling from that ride. But for now, in that moment, it was just a sister doing a favor. A normal day. A simple favor. Or so I thought. The drive home after dropping Rachel off was smooth, almost peaceful. The streets were quiet, and the sun had taken on that golden late-afternoon hue that made everything look warm and gentle. I had the windows down slightly, letting the breeze play with my hair as a soft indie song hummed through the speakers. It felt like the kind of day you remember for its calm, no deadlines, no rush, just a comforting rhythm. I felt good. Better than good, actually. Rachel had been light-hearted. Our banter was effortless. We laughed like we used to, and she even thanked me, genuinely. That wasn't always the case with her, so when she said, "You're the best, sis," with that gleam in her eyes, I believed it. Wholeheartedly. So, when I got home and kicked off my shoes, I had no idea a storm was waiting in my pocket. I settled on the couch with my iced tea and checked my phone. Our family group chat had lit up with a few new messages. Mom, as usual, had sent a morning quote that was several hours too late. Mom, be the rainbow in someone else's cloud. Classic mom. Always 3 emojis minimum. Then there was a photo from Aunt Linda showing off her new flower pots, and a response from Dad, something about replacing the living room blinds soon. Harmless, casual updates. Then, a message from Rachel popped in. My screen lit up with the preview. Rachel, ugh, Lisa just dropped me off. She acts like she's some kind of saint for driving me. Honestly, she's so full of herself it's exhausting. My heart dropped. At first, I thought, no. That can't be right. I clicked into the chat. Maybe it was about someone else. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe. But there it was. In plain text. My name. Her tone. The sharpness of it. I stared at it. My breath caught. It was like watching someone slap you in slow motion. She acts like she's some kind of saint. Full of herself. Exhausting. I reread it 3 times. The air in the room suddenly felt thin. Just then, 3 tiny dots appeared under the message. Typing. Rachel, wait, and oh, guys, ignore that message OMG. Followed with lots of crying emoji. And then, in a flash, the message vanished. Deleted. Rachel deleted a message. I sat there, stunned. My fingers hovered above the keyboard, unsure of what to do. My heart pounded. Rachel hadn't meant to send that to the group. That much was clear. It was a misfire. A digital slip-up. One of those text message catastrophes that are usually reserved for rom-coms or viral stories online. But it had happened. And it was about me. My hands were still shaking when I saw another message pop in. This time, she sent it as a private message, directly to me. Rachel, Lisa, I am so sorry. That wasn't meant for the group. It wasn't even meant for you. I was venting to Alex and it just, I clicked the wrong chat. Please don't take it seriously. I stared at her message. My face was burning, not from anger but from embarrassment. Humiliation, really. I had just been her driver. Her sister. Her friend. And while I was smiling and reliving memories in my head, she was texting her boyfriend about how annoying I was. I didn't respond immediately. I couldn't. Because behind the apology was something more painful. The honesty that comes out when you think someone will never see it. She had said what she really felt in a moment she thought was private. That message, meant for Alex, wasn't a joke. It wasn't a sarcastic quip. It was her truth, unfiltered. I put my phone down, trying to keep my hands from shaking. My chest was tight. The spaghetti on the counter now felt pointless. Rachel sent another message. Rachel, Lisa please. I didn't mean it like that. I was just frustrated. You know how I get. I didn't mean any of it. Don't be mad. I didn't reply. Not out of pettiness. But because I genuinely didn't know what to say. I had spent the drive home relishing the warmth of our sisterhood. Remembering our beach trip. Remembering our laughter. Feeling like maybe, just maybe, we were reconnecting after drifting for years. And then that message. A message not meant for me. But seen. Felt. Etched in a part of me that couldn't unsee it. A few moments later, Rachel sent a gif of a cartoon puppy holding a sorry sign. A last-ditch effort to patch things up. I didn't laugh. The tears came quietly, without warning. Not big, cinematic sobs. Just a slow stream of sadness. Of loss. Because even though the message was deleted, I had seen it. Even though she said don't take it seriously, I knew she had meant it in the moment she typed it. And even though she apologized, I couldn't forget the sting. I turned off my phone and sat in silence. There's a strange kind of grief in realizing that someone you love doesn't see you the way you thought they did. It's not about the words themselves, but the intention behind them. The casualness. The ease with which they were spoken. Was I exhausting to love? Did they all think of me as overbearing? Did my kindness come off as pride? These questions spun in my head, looping over and over. I didn't need an answer that night. I just needed the space to feel what I felt. Rachel had made a mistake. A human one. But sometimes, accidental messages tell more truth than the curated ones. And now, I had to decide what to do with that truth. Because even when the message disappears from the screen, it doesn't disappear from the heart. I didn't speak to Rachel the next day. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I didn't know how to face her without unraveling. Every time I picked up my phone, intending to reply to her last message, my thumbs would hover and then freeze. What could I even say? Don't worry, I'm used to being the sister you complain about behind my back. Or maybe, I get it. You were frustrated. I'm exhausting. Let's pretend I didn't read it. No version felt right. No message felt honest without pouring out the tangled mess inside me. So, I said nothing. By mid-morning, Rachel had sent another message. Rachel, I feel horrible. You're not replying. Are you really that mad? Then another. Rachel, can we please talk? I read them both. But the space between us felt wider now. Not a dramatic, slam-door kind of silence. No. This was a quiet, aching distance, the kind you feel more than hear. I still had to function. Life doesn't pause for emotional betrayal. I went to work, answered emails, smiled at clients, and even laughed at a coworker's joke. But inside, I was fragmented. Shaken. Every spare second, my mind wandered back to that message, the way her words cut without intending to be knives, the way it slipped out of her like truth she never thought I'd see. That evening, I found myself in the kitchen, chopping onions for a stew I didn't even want to eat. I needed something to do with my hands, something rhythmic. I needed to feel in control. Halfway through slicing, my phone buzzed again. Rachel, I'm coming over. My breath caught. No asking. Just a decision. And sure enough, 20 minutes later, she was knocking on my door. I hesitated before opening it. For a second, I imagined pretending not to be home. But I couldn't avoid her forever. The silence between us was heavy, and I needed to know if she felt the weight too. I opened the door. There she stood. Rachel. In leggings and a hoodie, holding a paper bag of pastries from our favorite cafe. Her eyes met mine, nervous but determined. "Peace offering," she said softly, holding the bag out like a white flag. I didn't smile. I didn't scowl either. I simply stepped aside and let her in. We sat at the kitchen table, the bag of pastries untouched between us. She was the first to speak. "I messed up." "I know." I stared at the table. "You think I act like I'm better than everyone." Rachel winced. "Lisa. I didn't mean it that way." "You typed it." "I know. I know I did." But it was a moment. Alex had just said something about how I always let people boss me around and I don't know, I felt stupid for needing a ride. And I guess I took it out on you. Which wasn't fair. It wasn't just one sentence, Rachel. My voice was barely above a whisper. "You called me exhausting." She swallowed. "Because sometimes, you are." The words hit, but she kept going. "You're always put together. Always knowing the right thing to say. You're reliable and calm and responsible. And I love that about you." "I do. But it also makes me feel small sometimes. Like I'll never catch up. Like I'll always be the mess in your rearview mirror." I blinked. That. I hadn't expected. "I never wanted you to feel that way," I said, my voice cracking. "I know. And that's the worst part. You're just being yourself. But I'm still working through my own stuff." And instead of dealing with it, I lashed out. It was immature and cruel. Silence stretched between us. Real. Honest. "I don't hate you," she whispered. "Not even close." "I didn't think you did," I said. But in that moment, it felt like it. She nodded slowly. "I get that." We both looked at the pastries. Neither of us reached for one. "Do you know what hurt the most?" I asked. "It wasn't what you said. It was realizing that the version of me you described, the one who's full of herself and exhausting, that's the version you thought I wouldn't hear. The real version. And it made me question how you really see me." Rachel bit her lip. "I see you as the one who always showed up. When Dad forgot my science fair, you were there. When I had that horrible breakup, you didn't say, 'I told you so.' You just held me. You've always been in my corner, Lisa. Even when I didn't deserve it." I looked at her. Tears were beginning to well in both our eyes. "And I messed that up," she whispered. "But I don't want to lose you over a stupid moment I can't take back." For a long time, I said nothing. I just let the weight of her words sit between us, pressing down on the silence until it softened. Finally, I reached into the bag, pulled out a croissant, and broke off a piece. "You brought almond," I said. Her lips twitched upward. "Your favorite." We sat there, eating in silence, the kind of silence that mends instead of wounds. Later, we moved to the living room and watched a movie we'd both seen a dozen times. We didn't talk much, but it didn't matter. Sometimes, healing doesn't come through long speeches. It comes through showing up. And she had shown up. Even after saying the wrong thing, she had chosen to face the discomfort, to be accountable, to be real. It didn't erase the hurt. But it was a start. And maybe that's what forgiveness is. Not forgetting. Not pretending nothing happened. But choosing to believe that someone's regret is genuine. That someone is more than their worst moment. That love is strong enough to hold space for flaws, too. As Rachel curled up under a blanket and I tossed her a pillow, I felt the tightness in my chest ease just a little. We still had a lot to talk about. But for the first time since the message, I believed we'd get there. Together. The next morning, I found Rachel still asleep on the couch, wrapped tightly in the blanket, her face softened by the kind of peace that only deep sleep brings. I stood in the kitchen, watching her for a moment as I stirred cream into my coffee. There was something almost childlike about her in that moment, vulnerable, unguarded. And for a split second, it took me back to when we were kids. Back when she'd sneak into my room during thunderstorms. Back when she'd tug at my arm just to show me her newest drawing, her smile so wide it threatened to split her face. Back when we didn't carry these invisible suitcases of unspoken jealousy, comparison, or misunderstood expectations. I took a sip of coffee and sighed. Things had changed. But something about last night felt like a thread reconnecting, delicate but there. When Rachel woke up, she rubbed her eyes and gave me a sheepish smile. "Morning." "Morning," I said, handing her a cup of coffee just the way she liked it. "One sugar. Splash of almond milk." "Thanks," she mumbled. We sipped in silence for a while. "I have to head to Mom's later," I said. "She wants help rearranging the guest room." Rachel looked up. "Do you want me to come?" I paused, surprised. "Only if you want to," I said honestly. She nodded slowly. "I think I do." The car ride to Mom's was quiet, but not in a tense way. It was the kind of quiet that follows after two people have aired out the worst parts and are now cautiously stepping into better ground. When we got there, Mom greeted us like she hadn't seen us in years, hugs, laughter, and her usual, "You girls have gotten thinner. Are you even eating?" We spent the afternoon moving furniture, dusting out corners, and laughing at Dad's attempts to avoid being involved. "I'm not lifting that dresser again, Marie," he said from the hallway, holding a bowl of peanuts like it was a diplomatic shield. "Oh, Zach, you will," Mom said. Rachel and I shared a look and laughed. It was easy, natural. But somewhere between folding linens and sorting old photo albums, Rachel found a shoebox tucked behind the closet. "Hey, Lisa," she said, holding it up. "Remember this?" It was our shared memory box. Something we made when we were teenagers. We sat on the edge of the bed, flipping through notes, movie tickets, postcards, and little drawings we'd made for each other. There was a birthday card I'd written to her when she turned 13. I'd called her the most annoying person I love with all my heart. She had underlined annoying and written rude in response. We laughed. But then she pulled out a folded piece of paper. Her eyes scanned it, and suddenly, her face changed. She handed it to me. It was a letter I had written but never given to her. I remembered writing it. I was maybe 18. She had just gotten grounded for sneaking out, and I'd covered for her. But instead of thanking me, she had snapped at me in front of her friends. So I wrote everything I felt. The hurt, the confusion, the longing for the sisterhood we used to have. Then I tucked the letter away, convinced it wouldn't matter. Now, years later, Rachel was reading it. "Why didn't you give this to me?" she asked quietly. "Because I didn't think you cared back then." She looked at me, her eyes wide and wet. "I would have cared. I was just too wrapped up in my own drama to show it." I shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe we both just weren't ready." She folded the letter back up carefully. Reverently. "I don't want to be that version of me anymore," she said. "The one who forgets how much you've done for me. The one who only sees what you have and doesn't see what you give." I was quiet. Not because I didn't believe her, but because I did. And sometimes, belief takes time to settle. To grow roots. We finished the room, and before we left, Mom handed us both little care packages. Snacks, soap, and some homemade stew. On the drive back, Rachel turned to me as we stopped at a red light. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Did you ever feel like I wasn't worth the effort?" The question caught me off guard. "No," I said without hesitation. But I did wonder if you'd ever see the effort. She nodded slowly. I do now. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Because sometimes, the most powerful healing isn't loud. It's quiet acknowledgements. It's showing up, again and again, even after the cracks have been revealed. By the time we pulled into her apartment complex, she turned to me again. I love you, Lisa. I looked at her, and for the first time in days, smiled genuinely. I love you too. She got out of the car and waved as she walked away. And I sat there for a moment longer, letting the quiet wrap around me like a familiar blanket. No fireworks. No dramatic confessions. Just the slow, beautiful process of two sisters finding their way back. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel exhausted. I felt seen. A week passed. Not a dramatic kind of week, just life unfolding in its steady rhythm. Rachel and I weren't suddenly best friends overnight, but something had shifted. The tension that once felt like glass walls between us had thinned. And then came Sunday dinner. Family dinner at Mom's house was sacred. A tradition we'd kept for years, ever since Dad had his health scare and decided he wanted to smell his roses while he still could. Everyone was expected. No excuses. Rachel arrived before I did, wearing a soft yellow dress and bringing homemade banana bread. I'd made my classic spinach casserole, something Rachel once dubbed the most nutritious punishment. When I walked in, the house was already full of warmth, roasting chicken aromas, soft jazz playing from the speaker in the hallway, and the hum of overlapping conversations. Rachel greeted me with a side hug and a quiet, "Hey." It was easy. Unforced. During dinner, we sat next to each other. Mom was telling the story, again, of how she met Dad at a library while pretending to read Shakespeare. And I thought he was a professor, she said, laughing. Turns out, he was just there to steal glances at me. We all laughed. Even Dad. At some point during dessert, Mom leaned in with a smirk. So, when are you two finally going to start that business you always talked about? Rachel blinked. What business? You know, the sister skincare line, Sistered Skin, Mom said. Rachel does the creative stuff, Lisa handles the logistics. You guys had a whole pitch when you were younger, you were always stealing my rose oil and cocoa butter. And yes, I just pretended not to know. I'd almost forgotten about that. We were 8 and 12 at the time, full of dreams and sticky notes. Rachel chuckled. Wow. That was ambitious. It wasn't a bad idea, I added, sipping my wine. Mom waved her fork like a wand. I'm just saying, you two have the perfect dynamic. Brains and branding. The table buzzed with amused agreement, but I caught something shift in Rachel's eyes. A flicker. Later, after dinner and dishes and family photo sessions, Rachel and I lingered on the porch, watching the sky shift to navy. She leaned against the railing. Do you ever feel like people expect us to be more aligned than we are? I looked at her. You mean, like the skincare thing? She nodded. Or like, every time I mess up, there's this invisible, "Why can't you be more like Lisa," hanging in the air. I sighed. I didn't know you felt that way. I didn't either. Until recently. But it's always there. Not just from Mom or Dad or cousins. Even strangers. I've been Lisa's sister most of my life. Not just Rachel. I let that settle. I didn't realize I was casting such a shadow. She looked at me. It's not your fault. You shine bright. It's just. I'm learning how to shine in a different way. I think you already do, I said honestly. You just haven't always seen it. She smiled, but it was thin. I want to stop comparing. Stop resenting. I want to be okay being the version of me that's still figuring it out. And I want to stop assuming I always know better, I admitted. That's not fair to you. We were quiet for a beat. Then she nudged me. Still think our skincare line would have flopped? Absolutely, I said with a laugh. but we would have had the best labels. She laughed too, the kind that made her nose scrunch up. As the wind picked up and the streetlights flickered on, I realized something. Rachel and I were never meant to be the same. We were meant to balance each other, challenge each other, even. But also, soften each other. And in a world that constantly wanted to pit us against each other, older versus younger, responsible versus reckless, we were slowly learning to rewrite that narrative. Side by side. Not in competition, but in coexistence. That night, after she'd driven off, I stood by the window, cradling a cup of tea. A message pinged on my phone. Rachel, thanks for today. I'm glad we're getting better at this. Me too. Progress, not perfection, right? Rachel, exactly. Love you. Me, love you more. I put the phone down, the smile still lingering. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed it. Not just in her, but in us. It was a regular Thursday. Midweek meant meetings, errands, and microwaved leftovers. Nothing about the day felt profound, until I got a call from Rachel. Can you meet me at the Willow Room? She asked. The Willow Room was our childhood cafe, the one with the mismatched mugs, the fireplace that never worked, and the raspberry muffins that tasted like nostalgia. Sure, I said, surprised. Is everything okay? Yeah. I just need to talk. When I arrived, she was already there, tucked into the corner booth, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug. She looked up, nervous but steady. Thanks for coming. Of course. I sat down across from her. There was a long pause. Then she reached into her tote bag and pulled out a small, worn notebook. I've been journaling again, she said. Trying to make sense of things. Of me. I nodded, unsure where she was going with this. She opened the notebook, flipping to a page. I wrote something last night. I wasn't going to share it. But then I thought, maybe you should know how I've really felt. All these years. My chest tightened. She began to read. There's something strange about watching someone live the life you thought you were supposed to have. It's not just envy, it's grief. Grief for the version of yourself that didn't become real. Lisa has always been the golden thread in our family. The voice of reason. The problem solver. The calm during storms. And I love her for it. But I also resented her for a long time. Because every time I messed up, she didn't just clean up the mess. She became the standard. And that's not her fault. But it crushed me quietly. I wondered if being me, messy, emotional, unsure, was enough for anyone. I feared I'd never be seen as more than her shadow. But then something changed. Not all at once. But gradually. I saw her struggles. I saw that she wasn't always composed. I saw that her strength came from breaking and rebuilding. Not perfection. And I realized, I wasn't her shadow. I was her mirror. Reflecting back the parts she didn't always say out loud. We need each other. Not to be the same. But to be whole together. She closed the notebook, her fingers trembling. I was silent, moved in a way that was hard to describe. I've spent so long trying to be different from you, just to feel like I mattered, she whispered. But maybe I should have just been me. I reached across the table, covering her hand with mine. You matter, Rachel. You always did. I just didn't know how to say it without sounding like I was preaching. She laughed through her tears. You do preach a lot. I'm working on it. We stayed at the cafe for hours, talking. Not just about old wounds, but about who we were becoming. Our fears. Our dreams. Even the small stuff. We debated the merits of oat milk versus almond. We shared funny Tinder stories. We confessed how we sometimes cried at commercials. At one point, I looked at her and said, do you remember when we used to braid each other's hair on the floor of your room, watching music videos? She nodded. Yeah. And we'd sing badly and pretend we were pop stars. I smiled. I miss that. Let's do it again sometime, she said. The braiding. Not the singing. Definitely not the singing. We both laughed. When we left the willow room, the sun was beginning to set. The sky glowed in shades of pink and gold, casting a gentle light on everything around us. As we walked to our cars, Rachel turned to me. Thank you for listening. And for not running away from my honesty. I stopped and faced her. I think your honesty is your strength, Rachel. You just needed someone to remind you. We hugged again, and this time it didn't feel awkward or overdue. It felt like a promise, a silent vow to keep showing up. And in that moment, I realized something important. The most beautiful relationships aren't the ones that never break. They're the ones that get broken, reshaped, and loved back into something stronger. Rachel wasn't just my sister anymore. She was my friend. And as we drove away, the reflection of that truth followed me like sunlight in the rearview mirror, soft, steady, and full of grace. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when I received a message from Rachel. Rachel, hey, do you have time for a call tonight? There was no drama in her tone, no heavy sighs hidden behind the words, just a simple, open question. We hadn't talked much since our emotional heart-to-heart. Not out of tension, but because we were still adjusting to this new space between us. A space where we weren't walking on eggshells, but also weren't pretending everything was perfect. Me, sure. 8 p.m. okay? Rachel, perfect. At 8 p.m. sharp, I picked up the call. Her voice sounded lighter than it had in months. Hey, she said. Hey, I replied, a smile already forming. There was a brief pause, then she took a breath. So, remember the skincare we said we'd do when I was 8 and you 12? Remember we named it Sister Skin? My smile widened. Of course I do. We practically built that brand with cocoa butter and stolen drops of Mom's rose oil. Rachel laughed, and it was the kind of laugh that brought back summer afternoons on our bedroom floor, surrounded by mason jars and notepads covered in doodles. I can't stop thinking about it lately, she said. I want to actually do it. Like for real. Since Mom mentioned it. I leaned back in my chair. You're serious? She hesitated, then said, yeah. I mean, I know we're just starting to rebuild what we lost, and I don't want to rush anything, but this idea keeps tugging at me. We always said we'd start Sister Skin someday. What if someday is now? Her words hung in the air. I thought about the way we'd carefully named our imaginary product line, how we made labels out of masking tape and dreamed about selling at malls and markets. How even when we had a fallout later in life, that childhood dream had never left us completely. What made you bring this up now? I asked gently. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Honestly? I think it's because I finally feel like we're finding our way back to each other. And it made me realize how much we left behind, not just our relationship, but the things we wanted to build together. I nodded slowly, the warmth in my chest blooming. You've been doing research already, haven't you? Her guilty laugh gave her away. Maybe. I've been messing with some recipes. There's this oat and chamomile mix I swear could calm a volcano. And I've been reading about packaging, eco-friendly jars, branding. Hold on, I interrupted with a grin. Are you pitching me right now? Maybe, she said again, playful this time. But only because I know you'd be the perfect partner. You're the detail queen. You'd keep me grounded. And you'd keep it from being boring, I said. Exactly. We'd balance each other out. Just like when we were kids. I paused for a second. So, what are you thinking? Like a soft launch? Local markets? I was thinking we start small, just online, maybe an Instagram page, build a little buzz. Do it our way. No pressure. Just joy. I smiled to myself. Joy. That's what this felt like. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Rachel let out a small gasp. Really? Really? We talked for 2 more hours that night, about product names, what kind of woman we wanted to serve, what message we wanted the brand to carry. It wasn't just about skincare. It was about healing. From the inside out. It was about reclaiming something we thought was lost. Our connection. Our dream. Our joy. Before hanging up, Rachel said, I know we've been through a lot, but this feels right. It does, I agreed. Like maybe this was always the plan. We just needed to grow into it. We didn't have jars or labels or a website yet. But we had something better. We had a beginning. And that night, we planted the seed of a dream we once left behind, now ready to bloom under the sunlight of second chances. Starting a business isn't all sunshine and shea butter. But when it's with your sister, the same person who once knew the scent of your favorite lotion before you did, it somehow becomes more than just a business. It becomes a redemption arc. Rachel and I spent that first weekend brainstorming names for our product line under the Sister Skin brand. Our Google Doc was a mess of ideas, some elegant, some hilarious. Rachel, what about Honeyglow? Me, sounds like a cereal. Me, what about Dawn Silk for the morning routine line? Rachel, oh, silky and poetic. I'm sold. We decided to split things based on our strengths. Rachel handled product creation, she'd been quietly testing ingredients for months, experimenting with textures and scents until everything felt just right. I focused on logistics, packaging sources, Instagram strategy, budgeting, setting up the store. We were both learning in real time. Every step felt both chaotic and exhilarating. Late one night, after a frustrating attempt to design our first label, I messaged her. Me, I think I just invented a label that looks like a confused potato. Rachel, perfect. That's our new night cream mascot. Hashtag potato glow. We laughed a lot. Argued a little. Compromised even more. And with every decision, we began rebuilding something that had once seemed broken beyond repair. There was a moment, a small one, but powerful. We were pouring body butter into jars, and I looked up to find Rachel quietly humming a tune we used to sing as kids when pretending to have our own commercial. It was off-key and adorable. I joined in. We both stopped, smiled. Feels like old times, she said. Better, I replied. Because now we know how easily this could have been lost. We launched the Sister Skin Instagram page that weekend. Our first post? A picture of us as kids, covered in shea butter and grinning like we owned the world. The caption read, 2 sisters. 1 dream. A second chance. Hashtag Sister Skin. It didn't go viral. But it didn't need to. The comments from family, friends, and even strangers were enough to spark fire in us. Rooting for you both. Finally. Been waiting for this. This story is healing me in ways I didn't know I needed. It wasn't just about skincare. It was about reminding women, and ourselves, that soft things could grow from hard places. One afternoon, while boxing up our first orders from friends and followers, Rachel said, "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" I paused, sealing a box. All the time. I still remember reading that message you accidentally sent. She winced, her face folding into a sheepish smile. Yeah. That was awful. And yet, here we are. She nodded. Sister Skin saved us, didn't it? I looked around, at the jars, the little thank you cards we handwrote, the shared notebook with crossed-out ideas, and the quiet peace between us. No, I said softly. We saved us. Sister Skin just gave us a reason to believe it was possible. That day, we decided to create a video series, short, weekly clips about 2 sisters healing while building a business. We called it the Sisterhood Diaries. It wasn't perfect. There were moments when we disagreed, when deliveries ran late, when products didn't come out right. But every challenge reminded us that working together wasn't just about the brand, it was about trust. And trust, once broken, takes time, effort, intention. But when it starts to grow again, you realize something incredible. It's stronger than before. The world saw the jars, the packaging, the glow. But we knew that Sister Skin was more than a product line. It was our stitched-up bond, bottled and sealed with love. And for the first time in years, I wasn't just proud of what we were building. I was proud of who we were building it with. Rachel looked up from the table, smudged with essential oils and labels. "We're actually doing this," she said. I smiled back. "Yeah. We are." 6 months passed in the blink of an eye. The scent of lavender and citrus lingered in my living room now, not just because of Sister Skin's body butters, but because this business, this dream, had become a part of my daily life. Our shelves were stocked. Our website was clean, simple, and functional. We were making sales beyond our friends and family now. Orders were coming from different states. Rachel and I still had our hiccups, but something had shifted. We knew how to speak to each other now. More importantly, we knew how to listen. It was a sunny Saturday morning when we were invited to speak at a local women in wellness event. We weren't the biggest brand in the room. But people came up to us, not just for the body oils and cleansers, but for our story. After the talk, an older woman approached us. She had kind eyes and gentle wrinkles that folded when she smiled. "You two remind me of me and my sister," she said. "We had a falling out years ago. I always hoped we'd find our way back. Seeing you both gives me hope." Rachel teared up, and I reached for her hand. "Thank you," I told the woman. "That means more than you know." That night, we sat on the porch outside Rachel's house. The sky was a soft canvas of blues and purples. "You ever think," Rachel started, "that maybe we had to fall apart before we could do this right?" I looked at her and thought back to that ride. That one ride. The message she meant to send to her boyfriend. The words that once split us in two. "Maybe," I said. "But I also think we could have missed it all. If we hadn't stopped to really talk." She nodded. "I'm glad we didn't." We sat in silence for a while. Later, when I got home, I opened my phone. That family group chat, the one that once held a careless message that broke my heart, was now filled with new things. Pictures of Sister Skin products. Aunties proudly showing off their glowing skin. Mom asking when the next restock would be. But this time, I smiled. I clicked into our Instagram page. Over 10,000 followers now. A community. Women tagging their friends. This brand helped me love my skin again. And in the comments, always, the same thread. "You can feel the love behind this." They weren't wrong. Sister Skin wasn't just about clean products. It was about clean starts. We had come full circle, not just as sisters, but as women. And in all the jars we sealed and labels we pressed, the biggest ingredient we added wasn't rose oil or coconut milk. It was forgiveness. Have you ever lost a relationship, family, friend, or otherwise, that you thought couldn't be repaired, but somehow, life gave you another chance? What did you do with that second chance? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story touched you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more powerful, emotional stories about healing, growth, and second chances. And remember, sometimes the most beautiful things bloom after the storm. Until next time, stay soft, stay strong, and stay true.